When I bought this property in Lancaster County, the back half was nothing but cleared ground with loose sandy soil, and every summer the ant colonies came back no matter what I sprayed on them. I would destroy one mound in the morning and find two new ones along the same fence line by the end of the week. It took me 2 full seasons to understand that I was fighting the symptom, not the problem. Once I understood what was actually drawing ants to the property in the first place, I stopped chasing them and started removing the conditions they needed to stay. My backyard has been ant-free for over a decade now. I am going to show you the exact 3 steps that made that happen, in the order you do them, and I am going to explain why each one works so you do not have to take it on faith. My name is Samuel Yoder. I farm in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, and I have been managing this land for over 30 years without a pest control contract. This is what I use and exactly how I use it. The reason most people cannot get ahead of an ant problem is that they are targeting the colony rather than the soil the colony is built in. Every time you destroy a mound, you are removing a structure the ants built in a material they chose, specifically because it was suitable for building. The material is still there. The conditions that made your yard attractive are still there. A new colony will move into that same spot within weeks, and often within days, because the soil itself is the resource they are after. Ants build colonies in firm, well-draining sandy soil for a specific reason. Their tunnel systems are intricate and need to hold their shape without collapsing. Loose organic matter, heavy clay, and compacted wet soil cannot support the tunnel architecture they need. Fine sandy soil with good drainage holds exactly the shape they need and drains away moisture that would otherwise flood the colony. If your property has this soil type, and many properties across the country do, ants are going to return to it regardless of how many times you treat the surface, because the soil is exactly what they are looking for and they will keep scouting it. This is the core problem. Addressing it requires 3 things done together: a defensive strategy that limits new ants from establishing in the first place, an offensive strategy that eliminates colonies that slip through the defense, and a long-term transformation of the soil itself so it no longer holds any appeal. All 3 steps matter. The first 2 manage the problem. The third one ends it. If this is useful to you, subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and share it with someone who has been dealing with this problem every season without a lasting result. The first step is defensive, and it addresses the scout ants that are actively searching your yard for suitable colony locations before a colony is ever built. Ants send scouts out ahead of the main colony, and those scouts walk your property looking for soil conditions, food sources, and protected locations. If the scouts do not return, the colony does not receive the signal to expand in your direction. Insect-killing lawn granules spread around the perimeter of your lawn create a barrier that scouts must cross to reach the interior of your yard. These granules are made with synthetic pyrethroids, which are contact killers for crawling insects. A scout ant walking through the treated area picks up enough of the compound over the course of its travels that it will die before returning to the colony. No return signal means no new colony established on your property. Apply the granules with a broadcast spreader for even coverage across the lawn area, starting in late winter or early spring before the soil warms and ant activity begins. The timing matters because you want the barrier in place before scouts begin moving, not after you already have new mounds. Most granule products remain effective for around 3 months. Plan a second application at the start of summer, and, in warmer climates with a long growing season, a third application in early autumn. 2 to 3 applications per year covers the full active season. One important distinction that affects how and where you apply these granules: they belong on the lawn only, not in vegetable gardens or planting beds. The active compound in synthetic pyrethroids is designed to resist oxidation and persist in the environment for months, which is exactly what makes it effective as a barrier. That same persistence makes it harmful to beneficial soil insects in a garden, including earthworms, ground beetles, and other organisms that are breaking down organic matter and maintaining soil health in your beds. On the lawn surface, the granules sit at a shallow depth and primarily affect surface-crawling insects. In cultivated garden soil, they work deeper and affect the full soil biology. Keep them strictly to the lawn perimeter. Natural pyrethrin, which is extracted from the chrysanthemum flower rather than synthesized in a laboratory, behaves very differently. It oxidizes rapidly in sunlight and air, losing its potency within hours to a day after application. This makes it a safe evening spray for garden pest control because it breaks down by morning. But it is not suitable as a long-term perimeter barrier for precisely the same reason. For the defensive layer, you need something that stays active for months, and that is the synthetic granule formulation on the lawn only. No perimeter barrier is a complete seal. Some scout ants will avoid the treated areas, some will find gaps, and some colonies will have already established before you begin the program. Step 2 is your offensive response to any mound that appears despite the defensive layer, and it targets the colony at its source rather than just the surface structure. Ant bait is the method that works here. Ant bait products are formulated with a slow-acting poison combined with an attractant that ants identify as food. The key word is slow-acting. A contact killer that kills an ant on the spot does not solve the colony problem because the ant never returns to the colony. A bait that the ant carries back and shares with the colony, including the queen, works its way through the entire population over the following 24 to 48 hours. No queen means no reproduction, and the colony collapses completely rather than regrouping. Apply bait by placing a small amount, roughly 1 teaspoon, directly beside the mound opening rather than on top of it. Placing it on top of the mound disturbs the structure and causes ants to retreat defensively rather than forage. Placed a few inches away from the opening, the foraging workers find it, identify it as food, and carry it inside without alarm. The best time to apply is early morning when ant activity is at its highest and workers are actively moving food into the colony. Borax is the natural alternative that produces the same result through the same mechanism. Borax mixed with a food attractant such as sugar water or peanut butter, depending on whether the ant species in question prefers sugar or protein, works as a slow-acting stomach poison that gets carried back to the colony and distributed. The effective ratio is roughly 1 part borax to 10 parts attractant. Too high a concentration kills the forager before it returns to the colony. Too low a concentration does not kill the queen and workers before the colony disperses the threat. The commercial bait products are more precisely calibrated and more convenient for most people, but borax bait made at home is effective and costs almost nothing. Once a week during ant season, walk the full perimeter and interior of your yard and look for new mounds. Apply bait to every mound you find. With the defensive granule layer already in place, reducing the number of scouts successfully locating your yard, the number of new mounds appearing each week should drop significantly within a month of beginning the full program. The offensive step becomes increasingly light work as the defensive layer does its job. Steps 1 and 2 manage the ant population. Step 3. The reason they came in the first place, and it is the step that makes the result permanent rather than seasonal maintenance. Ants require firm, well-draining sandy soil with structure that holds their tunnel architecture. Heavy organic matter does not have this property. Compost, aged wood chip mulch, and organic material incorporated into the soil creates a loose, moisture-retaining medium that collapses when ants attempt to excavate it. Their tunnel systems cannot hold shape in it. They will not build colonies in it because it is physically unsuitable for their purposes, regardless of what the surface looks like or how much food is available nearby. Adding a 4-inch layer of compost and mulch across planting beds, borders, and any areas you are willing to convert from bare lawn to garden or landscape coverage changes the soil profile in those areas over time. The organic material breaks down and is incorporated into the soil by earthworms and soil organisms, converting the sandy structure below into a denser, more complex loam. This process takes several years to transform the full depth of the soil, profile, but the surface layer is immediately unsuitable for ant colony establishment, and that effect begins as soon as the organic material is in place. The perimeter of the yard is where this transformation matters most, because scout ants testing the boundary of your property are the first point of contact. Edible landscaping beds, perennial borders, and mulched areas along fences and property lines that are kept covered with several inches of organic material give ants nothing to work with when they probe the edges of your land. If they cannot establish at the perimeter, they do not reach the interior. In the areas between garden beds where bare soil is exposed, such as walkways between raised beds and paths through the garden, weed barrier fabric pinned to the ground and covered with wood chip mulch achieves the same result. The fabric physically prevents ant excavation below it, and the mulch above it provides no stable building medium. Ant mounds disappear from covered paths immediately and do not return as long as the coverage is maintained. This third step takes the longest to show its full effect, but the partial effect is immediate. Every section of your yard that you convert from bare sandy soil to covered organic matter is a section where ants will no longer establish. The process compounds over time as the organic material continues to build up and the soil structure below it continues to change. A property that has been through 2 or 3 years of consistent organic matter addition reaches a point where the soil itself is no longer what ants are looking for, and the colony pressure on that area drops to near zero without any chemical intervention required. Once the 3-step system is running, the maintenance it requires is far less than the reactive spraying most people do before they understand the underlying problem. The defensive granule application takes 2 to 3 hours once per application, spread across a full year. The offensive bait walk takes 15 minutes per week during the active season, and less time as the perimeter defense and soil transformation reduce the number of new colonies appearing. The organic matter addition to beds and borders requires 1 day of work in spring when mulch is refreshed and compost is added, which is work you would be doing for soil health and plant growth, regardless. The total labor is less than what most people spend fighting ants the wrong way in a single season, and the result is cumulative rather than resetting to zero each spring. One maintenance point worth noting on the granule application. Because synthetic pyrethroid granules are active for around 3 months, the timing of your applications determines whether there are gaps in your coverage. A late winter application that goes out in February is losing its effectiveness by May. A summer application going out in June covers you through September. Map your applications to the seasons in your specific climate so the coverage overlaps rather than leaving a window in midsummer or early autumn when the soil is warm and ant activity is at its peak. The bait walk is most important in the first year when new colonies may still be establishing despite the granule barrier. By year 2, with consistent soil improvement underway and the granule applications keeping scout traffic down, the number of new mounds you find on the weekly walk should be significantly reduced from what it was in year 1. That is the complete 3-step system. A defensive granule barrier on the lawn perimeter applied 2 to 3 times per year to intercept scouts before colonies establish. A weekly bait application to any colony that appears despite the barrier, using a slow-acting product that the workers carry back and distribute through the colony to eliminate it at the queen, and a long-term soil transformation through organic matter addition that converts the firm sandy soil ants' need for colony construction into a loose, organic medium they cannot build in. The first 2 steps manage the problem. The third one ends it. Ants are persistent because the conditions on most properties are genuinely favorable for them. Change those conditions and you are not managing ants anymore. You are simply maintaining a yard that is no longer an attractive place for them to build. That is a fundamentally different position to be in, and it is one that compounds in your favor each year rather than starting over each spring.